Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Allah fi kulli umri esta'in. Wa Allah fi kulli umri amjid. Inhu Rabbi yuhibbu mukhlisin. Wa yukarihu mujrimin. Muhammadun huwa Sayyidina Mahbubana. Inhu kana Rasulun Nabiyyan. Salawatu Rabbi Teslimati عليه. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh lil ikwani wa ukhwati fi din wa salamu ala mani taba'a huda lil ikwani wa ikhwati fi Afrika wa Europa, Asia wa America wa kulli makan. Assalamu alaikum, my dear sister Amina. We will cover today, inshallah ta'ala, the last of the 10 nullifiers of the Noble Qur'an Ashra. And the 10th nullifier is I guess, the culmination of all of the nullifiers that we have talked about previously in the last couple of weeks. And I probably won't be able to even finish this one today. I may have to come back, inshallah, to finish up on this. The 10th nullifier has many components to it. And today, why it's so prevalent and why it's important, because we have a disconnect in the Muslim world. We have the Muslims living in the West, millions of Muslims, millions upon Muslims born, living in the West, and then the Muslims who live in the 57 Muslim countries. And we are having this disconnect because of knowledge and language, this difficulty. And even though this nullifier has deemed persons to be disbelievers, we have conditions to it. It's not just that simple, just to say that the man sitting in California is a disbeliever, when we know that's not the case. And so we'll go through some of this here. Now, I want to preface something. The 10th nullifier is a warning to the Muslims, and also it's a guide that will help you in the future, because now, since you had the 10 nullifiers, you should be able to deflect from the persons who are involved in this, and those who try to get you in this, and for those who won't fall into this. And so this is important. And I might add to this. There was, which I find comical, there was a written document that I saw that was sent to me, perhaps by accident or by design, where a so-called Muslim who has had many problems basically with me made some disparaging remarks, which I don't care about what he says about me, but he went after the Nawaqid al-Islam, which makes him a kafir, because any person, Muslim, who denies the 10 nullifiers of Islam that come from subhanahu wa ta'ala and comes from our prophet can't be a Muslim. And he cannot go after the students of knowledge and the scholars as well and call them idiots. But he did. And he sent this to a number of other so-called Muslims, and none of them took him to task for it. I read it. I'm not going to fight the guy. Let him to his kufr and his misguidance. I let him to that. But there's a warning in the 10th nullifier about this same issue, our brothers and sisters, about this same issue. And it's a dire warning. And it also comes from subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this particular person who's had problems after problems dealing with the Islamic Aqeedah, he doesn't like the Makram rule. He doesn't honor the Makram rule. He says he is too conservative. He will not abide by it. And he says, he shows his videos. He's with women all over the place, not with his wife. This is in violation. As I said before, if this man was here in Morocco, they would get him. They would arrest him. He wouldn't be able to parade around like that. But he does it. He said he will not follow it. That takes him out of Islam. And this particular individual, he goes after the Muslims a lot, the strong Muslims, but says very little against the disbelievers. Very little against the disbelievers. He doesn't talk against them. He's sympathetic towards them. He apologizes for them. And remember, that's a Nawaqid. And number 3 and number 4, in particular of the Nawaqid, just cast him out because this is what he's doing. I'm only talking about this in a situation that's telling you, my dear brothers and sisters, don't follow the guide of people like this. If you hear a Muslim says he talks against the Nawaqid al-Islam Ashra, which all the Sheikh Islams from how many eras codified this, talk about this, use it. The Qadi, the judges, they use this in the Sharia court. You got rulers in 57 countries who use this. And how can this guy come who doesn't even carry a Quran in his house? He doesn't even read the Quran, can't even read it, and can't even make his wudu correctly. Has the audacity to criticize the people who teach it. And that's why, remember I was telling you about how the Salibin, the 4th category of disbelievers, the ones we're to fight them. We're not to have no relationships with them. He's with them. And this is why he makes constant references to Muslims, strong Muslims, and he talks against them. He calls them idiots. He calls them other names. And he's on YouTube, and he has Islamic programs on top of that. It's wrong. And he tries to deceive. I'm talking about today because when he's gone too far. Now when he talked about the Makram was out, now he talked against the Nawaqid al-Islam because he doesn't believe that there is anything that will take him and people like him out of Islam. I don't know where he getting his Islam from, but that's what he says. There's nothing to take him out. So he doesn't even read the Quran, doesn't even understand it. So I say this, my brothers and sisters, please stay away from that. If you don't know something, go to a student of knowledge or to a scholar and ask them a question. Don't listen to people who will tell you something like this. They'll tell you, well, look, the Nawaqid Islam is not, don't worry. You know why they say that? Because they're involved in the Nawaqids of Islam. There's some here today are doing, like aiding the mushrikeen, or they believe that the kuffar and their Aqidah is okay. This guy believes that the Aqidah of the disbelievers is okay. We don't fight it, but he fights the Muslims in their Aqidah. See, so and he's going to try to take you away from that. So be careful of that. So let's start. The 10th nullifier. Let me say what it says. I will say it in English here. It says total disregard or turning away from the religion of Allah by neither learning it and acting upon it. And the evidence of this is the saying of Allah, which again we have here, which is Surah 32, I believe it's 32, 22. And this is the proof to go to say here what this is a Nawaqid. Now we have there's a Naqa'id. There's different ones here that, this class, to be honest with you, it would take many days, but I'm trying to shorten it, just give you just the fundamentals of it. But the persons who do not want to learn the religion, they're satisfied only praying and making psalm, and that's it. They don't care, and many of them don't even know how to even make their salat. These people, they have a problem. And according to many of the ulama fuqaha, this individual is a disbeliever. He's apostated out because he does not want to learn his religion. We have people who are 30 years, 27 years, 30 years, 35 years as Muslims, can't even pray right, don't even know how to make wudu. And they don't even teach their wives nor their children. This problem exists. This is why we have this Nawaqid, to warn the people, to say, look, my dear brother, you must learn your deen. And they're not talking about that you must be a scholar. They're not saying that. They're telling you the basics. That's all. Learn the basics. And many of us don't, especially in the United States. I saw that among my people. I saw that. And I've had run-ins with many. And I don't know what Islam that they're practicing. And I ask the questions and they'll tell you straight. I don't need the Arabic language. I don't need to do this. I don't need to read the Quran. I can read it in any language I want and I can understand it. This is some of the foolishness and the misguidance that's coming out from some of my brothers and sisters there in the United States. It's unfortunate. I'm going to read number 22 for you here. This is Surah 32, Sajda. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and who does more wrong than one whom are recited the signs of his Lord, and who turns away therefrom? Verily, from those who transgress, we shall exact due retribution. That's a warning to you, my dear brothers and sisters, who don't like this brother who criticized. He's talking about the scholars and talking about the students of knowledge who tries to teach the people. He goes after them, and he turned away from his own religion. And this is what Subhanahu wa ta'ala here is talking about. Even though this brother was given signs, even though a student knowledge was in front of him trying to teach him, he rejected that teaching, and he turned his back on it. This is what they're talking about here. He was given the signs. He was given the right guidance. He rejected it. Matter of fact, in my case, they threw me basically out because they didn't want me to teach. They wanted to go on in their way, which would lead you to the fire. And they wanted to guide the Muslims into what we call tarif al-khalam, where they misquote the Quran and use some tafsir from outer space and misleading the Muslims. I wouldn't stand for it. I begged them to reconsider. They said no. And then they began to not pick on me, but they jumped on me and basically wanted to silence me. So I left. And I told him afterwards, again, I said, dear brother, if you're going to get on your program and you're going to mislead the African Americans, I'm going to go after you and your band of hypocrites because you're misleading the Muslims. This is what they're talking about here. This is what they're talking about here. They have received the information from Subhanahu wa ta'ala through what? Through the fuqaha, the ulama, the students of knowledge, and they still turn away from the signs from our Lord. They still turn away from it like him. He says, I don't care about nothing about the macaroon room. I don't like it. It's too conservative. So he goes to hold hands. He goes to the motel with girls. He goes do this with women, not his wife. He ignores that. I'm not trying to pick on him, but I'm trying to make an example that this is what you do not follow. Because when the young brothers who are 17, 18 are impressionable, their hormones are up now. They see beautiful girls. And then when they see me talk, their parents say, look, you listen to Sheikh Yahya. And they listen to me. Then they turn 2 days later to another guy that said he's Muslim, and they see him holding hands with different women. So he goes to his mother and father said, wait a minute, who's right? I see Sheikh Yahya, he said that we have a rule against this, but I see this other individual who's not abiding by that. And I've had this happen. I lost one young man because of that. Because he didn't call me a hypocrite, but because of his immaturity. And I understand that he's 17 years old. And he was given to me because the parents was fearful. And I had to be honest and frank here. He lived in an area where the two Bob girls were going after him a lot. He's a handsome African American. You know what's happening in the United States nowadays. There's no more prohibition now. The gloves are off. Two Bob women are going after brothers. Like white on rice. And you know that. And this is what they were afraid of. And they didn't want him to get in trouble, end up going to jail or getting somebody pregnant. So I got involved in the case per se to bring him from that. But when he saw this brother on TV with all these girls, some nice looking and not his wife, he thought the contradiction. He said, hey, wait a minute. I don't want to look at Sheikh Yahya. I'd rather follow this guy. And it'll lead you to the fire. This is what we're talking about here, my brothers and sisters. Please stay away from that. Follow Subhanahu wa ta'ala and our Prophet ﷺ. Don't follow the people. Even if you see me and you think something's wrong, you check it out. That is your right to do that. It is no harm in doing that, my brothers and sisters. Check out the sources. Check it out. There's no harm in that. No harm in that whatsoever. Okay. The proof that Subhanahu wa ta'ala gives in this particular nullifier 10 is that, again, to totally disregard and turn away, okay, from the religion of Allah by neither learning it or acting upon it. This, again, is like we're talking about the hypocrites. They talk a good game, but they don't implement what they learn from the Quran, or they don't read the Quran. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and I will translate this in English to you, who does more wrong than he is reminded of a higher proofs and evidence versus science revelations of his Lord, then turns away from it. This is what we have today. This is why it's in one of the nawaqids of Islam, to cast you out of Islam. Verily, it says, verily, verily, we shall exact retribution from the mujrimeen. Mujrimeen in Arabic, criminal, a malcontent, street thug, drug dealer. I mean, there's a whole gamut that the mujrimeen and those who fight the Muslims. We use that a lot. Subhanahu wa ta'ala used them. They call them mujrim, the ones who talk against Islam, like that one brother, and also act against Islam. We call them mujrim. You hear that one. Mujrimun mean many. And the polytheists and sinners, etc. So that is a serious ayat. Now I'm gonna get into something. The Sheikh's Islam, the Fuqaha ulama, also warns us of something. They say here, there's no difference in respect of commission of these nullifiers. Interesting. Meaning 1 to 10. If you are violating 3, you can't say, well, you know what, I'll do number 3, which I'll give all my kudos and my love and my respect to disbelievers. And I believe in their Aqidah, but I won't become Christian, but I believe in their Aqidah. Okay, that's what they're talking about here. But I won't do sorcery. You see, he tries to make a distinction. He'll say, I believe that the modern day Christian, I like their Aqidah. I like because they can date, they can eat pork, they can go out what they want, they can fornicate, they can do what they want to do. And he says he likes that. But then number 7, which has to deal with sorcery of the Nawaqid al-Islam Ashra, has to deal with sorcery. He said he won't do it. So he makes a distinction saying, well, I can do this one here, but I won't do this one. The Sheikh Islam said, no. It doesn't work like that. There's no differences in respect of the commission of the nullifiers between the joker, the one, person who plays with it, the person who is a serious person, and the person who's have fear. Now, let's get into the fear. This is something, my brothers and sisters, that is real today. Remember, we've been talking the last couple of weeks, our brother scholars. I don't even want to name some of the countries because it's sensitive, but they've been killed. Okay, they've been killed relentlessly. And many of them have been put in trial. I can say this one for sure, Egypt. They've been put on trial and they're not faring very well. Okay, and they are going through all kinds. Some may have to recant all things they say. You cannot hold the man who has a gun at his head and he's about ready to pull the trigger, and then he tells you to dance. You dance to save your life, especially when you have a wife and children over here that depend on you and they need you. And that man tells you to dance, you dance in that regard. Subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's in your heart. This is the fitna we have with many scholars today. This is why I love Morocco. Because why? The scholars come here, they find safety. The scholars are finding safety also in Turkey. But we're up and coming here in Morocco because here the brothers can come here and you can practice your faith. Even though we have the Salibiyyin a lot here, but they're not going to interfere per se with that. But they have their other ways of doing things. But here, our government, our brothers don't turn Muslims over to the kafir. They don't do it. That's one thing I love about Morocco. They abide by the Sharia in this regard. They will not let some Muslim and let a kafir take him and then take his Islam from him and kill him. They will not stand for that. Our scholars are running to many different parts of the world now. And we know some have come here to Morocco as well. And they found safety. And we should have that. Here we talk about that issue. The one who has fear, he is told now to toll a certain thing. He's told to drop Tawheed. He may say, okay, I will denounce this. He's doing it out of fear. He is not a disbeliever, my brothers and sisters. We cannot fault him for it. But the other ones, yes, we can, because there's no gun at his head or at her head, and she plays around with the religion, or she's a person that is very serious but doesn't study. But the person who's going through duress, that's a different story. And here they say that in this, all of these nullifiers are the most dangerous matters and the most common in occurrence. Hence, a Muslim should be cautious about them and fear for himself from falling into them. This is what the fuqaha and ulama have said in consensus about the Nwaaqid Islam, that you be careful, my brothers and sisters, and you learn those 10 nullifiers, learn them well, memorize them, and stay away from them. Because you see here what is said, that they tell you, and they give you additional advice. They say, seek subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. Seek refuge with Allah from the causes of his wrath and severe punishment. Meaning, here, you constantly pray to subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you on the straight path. Because if you don't ask subhanahu wa ta'ala and you don't ask him, if you go ask the neighbor around the corner, he may mislead you. You have your 5 daily prayers. You have du'as. There's many ways you can contact subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. You don't need me. You don't need your mother. You don't need your father or your wife. You go directly to subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the beauty of the Muslims. And here he's telling you, you go to seek that refuge. Ask him to protect you from the Nwaaqid al-Islam. Ask him to protect you. Did he give you knowledge so that way you know how to combat this? Because it's very, very, very serious, my brothers and sisters. Very serious. And you have to ask a question. How can you call yourself a Muslim? Okay, let's think about this. You call yourself a Muslim, and then when a disbeliever comes to you and he says, yeah, are you a Muslim? Yeah. Well, I got a question about the salat. I saw this man do this in the masjid, and you can't give him an answer. We have this many times. And that disbeliever who was thinking about coming to Islam, you just now let him go away. Some may not take it, and they may go to another person because they may be more determined. But you never know, my brothers and sisters. One person who's thinking about Islam may walk up to you and ask you a question. Now, there's something so technical. You say, look, we have scholars who answer that. You can be frank, but something basic. This is what they're talking about here would take you out of Islam. When you basic things about salat, you should know. If this man comes to you and says, you know what, how many prostration do you do in Salat al-Maghrib? I heard you guys do 6, and you turn around and you say, yeah. He just tested you to see if you even know about the Salat. When you know there's 3 only in Salat al-Maghrib, but he said 6, and you say, yeah, that's right, because you didn't know, because you don't pray much. This is what I'm talking about, my brothers and sisters. This is a naqa'id, a Nwaaqid, one of the nullifiers, because you won't learn your deen and neither the basics. How about wudu? I've heard this many times. I've seen disbelievers say, I saw Sheikh Islam and YouTube making wudu. Then I go over and watch these guys here in the bathroom make wudu. I see some of them don't even wash their face. This is disbelievers talking about the Muslims. And they look at the Muslims and watch. And they go to YouTube and they say, well, I see Sheikh Yahya, I see Sheikh Hakim, I see Sheikh so-and-so, or I see this sister Sheikh here, Amina, I see this, and I see how they do their wudu. But I go over here to the bathroom and watch the brothers, and some don't even clean their feet, don't even know how to do it. He said, I thought you're supposed to clean your feet. They didn't even do it. They didn't even wipe over their socks. This is what we're talking about here. It's important, brothers and sisters, that we learn our deen, because you do not know when this dawah, this is real dawah, when someone walk up to you and ask you a question, and he's interesting or she's interested in Islam, and she has some questions. We're not talking about you have to answer technical things on the Sharia. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the basics, okay? The basics, and many of us don't know. They don't know, my brothers and sisters, even the basics, especially in America. Many of them don't even know. I know that firsthand. When many of them I've talked to, they didn't even know even about the wudu and how to make it. And I had sisters as well that have, ladies have their they have their differences because for men, and they have different things that come out of them that we don't have. And many of them didn't know that they could still make salat in certain circumstances because nobody taught them. But they should make an effort to learn to read and get answers from somebody if they can. But some have not, and they just let it go, and they don't pray because they thought they couldn't pray. This is what I'm talking about. It's a sad epitaph. It's a very sad epitaph. Now, here we have another warning to the brothers and sisters. Again, the 10th nullifier here, and for those who just came, let me tell you what the 10th nullifier is of your Islam. And I'll say it again so you can understand where I'm going. Of the total disregard or turning away from the religion of Allah by neither learning it nor acting upon it. And acting upon it. And the evidence of this is the saying of Allah, the Most High. So here we have, again, our scholars giving us a lot of things here for us to look at. Now, here's one that they say here. Points out the person is not excused for falling into kufr. My brothers and sisters in America and Europe in particular, but this is rising even in the Muslim states at 57. They're falling into kufr, and they have no excuse for it. By practicing any of the above mentioned nullifier, whether he was mocking, serious, or afraid. Now, according to afraid, meaning there's some different degrees of this. You know that we talked about it. If someone's holding a gun at your head and telling you that you're going to have to accept this disbeliever over here, you're going to have no other choice until the threat is gone. But in your heart, you can't accept him. But the gun is at your head. You have to be very careful, and you have to save your life. Whether he was mocking, serious, or afraid, except for whoever was being forced to say or practice an action. Again, we've had that. They made allowances for that. We see this today. We have scholars today have been told now, basically, you saw them, they've been stripped of their manhood in order to save their life and the life of their families. And what I mean by that, it's a shame. They removed them out from the ulama, which they had no authority to do that. And they moved them out. Then they stripped them, meaning many were ordered to shave their beards. How can a Muslim order another Muslim to do that? And then to don Western clothing, and basically now to act like a disbeliever. Some have been forced to do this. This is happening today, my brothers and sisters. Those particular people, you cannot go after them and call them disbelievers. They did not apostate. That's the difference. Okay, now, there's no dispute that Tawheed must be a doctrine in the heart, verbal and practical. My brothers and sisters, Tawheed Allah is more than just saying the Shahadatain. You hear what the Sheikh Islams have come up with. They said there's a doctrine in the heart, it's verbal, and it's practical. Okay, meaning you have to practice it. And if one of the three is missing, the person is not considered a Muslim. Now, listen to what our scholars have said. If one of the three are missing, you're a disbeliever. Here, there's no dispute that Tawheed Allah, okay, oneness of subhanahu wa ta'ala in English, must be doctrine in the heart, verbal, and practical. All three, you have to implement that. Because today we have Muslims who talk it, but don't act it. We have Muslims who fake acting by going to the masjid to pray, when in fact they don't want to pray. But then you can hear their kalam, their words, and they you can tell something's not right. Here, if you're missing one of the three, two of the three, or all three, you're out. And if the person knows Tawheed but does not implement it, listen to this. If he knows Tawheed Allah but does not implement it, then he is a kafir and stubborn like the Pharaoh and Iblis, the devil, and the like. You see the analogy they made here, my brothers and sisters, how serious this is. Let me say this again. Our scholars have said, if the person knows Tawheed Allah, but does not implement, he does not implement it, meaning he talk it. You hear some talking real good. I see this even sometimes around me. I see the guy, I mean, beautiful. Every other word, he's mentioning subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he doesn't pray. He don't even go to the masjid. He doesn't even look like a Muslim. And you can't tell if Lex when he talks, but he doesn't look like a Muslim. He looks like a man out of Europe or out of LA or something like that. And here, our scholars said, if the person knows Tawheed Allah but does not implement it, then he is a kafir and a stubborn like the Pharaoh. Remember, in the Quran, subhanahu wa ta'ala is all over the Pharaoh and Iblis, which is the devil, the evil one, the devil, and the like. But if a person practiced Tawheed outwardly without understanding it or without believing in it by the heart, then he is considered a hypocrite who is worse than a kafir. Listen to this again, my brothers and sisters. This is important. But the person practiced Tawheed, again, like we see on YouTube, we have some of them, you hear them talking, I'm a Muslim, I believe in subhanahu wa ta'ala, you hear this, all of this. But that's outwardly, he shows that without understanding that, but he cannot explain it to you. If you ask him about the basics of the Aqeedah, he cannot explain it. Without believing in it by heart, he doesn't. Why I say that? Because he's always with disbelievers and he talks against the believers. This is kind of like what they're talking about here, because he doesn't have an understanding of what he's talking about in Tawheed. He says he's Tawheed Allah. He works in it. He practices it, but he doesn't believe in his heart. Why? Because he's always with disbelievers and he always after the believers. Then he is considered a hypocrite who is worse than a kafir. Because why? He goes among the Muslims, among us, acting as a Muslim, when in fact he is not. And he hurts the Muslims. Like this guy who is drawing Muslims from Tawheed Allah and from the Sunnah Allah and the Sunnah of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. We have these people everywhere, but our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam talked about the hypocrites will be here to the day of judgment. And they will always draw the Ummah, the Ummah means the community of Muslims, from Tawheed Allah and Sunnah Allah by giving you something to bring you to the fire. That's their ambition, bring you to the fire, not to subhanahu wa ta'ala, bring you to the road to Jannah, but to the fire. So this is, again, my brothers and sisters, a serious nullifier, as I told you before. And we have to always weigh our belief system. And we have to always try to seek the knowledge. It's important. In the United States in particular, because that's where I'm from, I know we have a tough time. I've said this many times. You're tired. You're working many hours. You're fighting traffic. You're fighting the Tubab, the racist Tubab, the police. You're fighting people at work. You have discrimination. Then you come home, you're tired. But you have to learn your deen, but you're too tired to learn it. And you get lazy. See, they talk about this in some way. The scholars differ how do we talk about this individual? But we're not going to give you 30 years for you not to learn your religion. That's too far. That's too much. You need to learn some of it. You got to learn the basics. So here also we'll talk about one other verse here, which I gave you here, which is verse 18, and that's Surah 18 and verse 57. Okay, and I'll read this quickly to you. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and who does more wrong than one who is reminded of the signs of his Lord, but turns away from them, forgetting the deeds which his hands have set forth. Verily, we have set veils over their hearts, lest they should understand this, and over their ears in deafness. If you call them to guidance, even they will never accept guidance. Like this guy who I told you now, he's after me and many scholars. He's after him, okay? Many Sheikh Islams and students of knowledge, he's after them. He calls them idiots. Some, not all. The ones he kind of agree with, ones he won't call them, but many of them he calls, especially those who talk about Nawaqa Islam or who are fundamentally sound about the Islam. He tries to pick and choose the ones he considered to be modern Muslims, where you don't know if they're scholars or not because they look like any disbeliever on the street. But the people who look like me, he goes after them. The people who look like, who like the Saudis or to wear long beards and stuff like that, then he goes after those. But those who's clean shaven, you can't tell what they are, if they're a banker or if they're what, he goes after those. So 57 here, you see, again, subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about you turning your back on the religion and turning away from the signs. You have to be very careful of that, my brothers and sisters. Be very mindful of that. And again, we have another verse, verse 9, 127. I won't read all of those. And verse 22 of the same surah, which is surah 9, verse 122. Subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about this. Now I'm gonna get into a part here where I'm going to talk about the Muslim and how he can avoid some of these pitfalls here for number 10, and that you can save your deen, even if you have not really understood your religion yet. You have not practiced and studied it very well. And here we talk about the Muslim who adopts his deen, but he doesn't adopt it very well. And he's made his advances upon subhanahu wa ta'ala and on our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And he's trying to go to the right way. These brothers here on the right path. Subhanahu wa ta'ala gives knowledge to who he wills. It doesn't come. You just can't go and say, I'm going to get this today. Subhanahu wa ta'ala's got to give you this. He must give you the approval. Because you know why? Because the ulama and fuqaha inside the Quran, subhanahu wa ta'ala, has a special love for them. He's not going to let anybody learn his deen and teach it. You understand that? He will not. So none of us can just declare that we're going to be this. We can ask for it and we can ask, but many of us will not achieve the knowledge that the others have, because subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is not what I have planned for you. I have this plan for you. See, so, here we're not talking about people trying to achieve to be scholars. It's very difficult because subhanahu wa ta'ala picks those. And then we have the other person who is rejecting the sunnah of Allah and the sunnah of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And he openly shows his hatred for many of the things in Islam. This is the other person. He's the exact opposite of our brother here. Our brother, he doesn't have knowledge, but he's trying to practice. He's trying to do the right thing in Islam, but he doesn't have the knowledge. He makes mistakes here and there, but subhanahu wa ta'ala sees that. He's making an effort. Number two, you have a guy here that openly shows disrespect, openly shows hatred towards scholars and people of knowledge, but shows love and shows admiration for disbelievers. He will not criticize. If you go to him and ask him a question about the disbelievers and about the modern Christian, he cannot offer anything bad, but he can offer bad words about a scholar or student knowledge. He can talk against them. He can call him this, he'll call him that. But when you ask him, okay, yeah, I heard what you say. Yeah, you said Sheikh Yahya, and you talking about all these guys over here. You said that they are terrorists. You said that they are extreme and this and that. But let me ask you something. What do you think about the Christians in the United States? All of a sudden now he clams up, I'm not here for that. We should not talk against them. You just got through talking against your brother scholars that you don't even know. You can't even hold the Quran. You don't even know how to open up the Quran. You can't even read it. And you go after the scholars of Islam, but yet and still when the same person asks you a question about disbelievers, you say you can't talk against them. This is the hypocrisy that we have. And speaking of that, this person here, number two, I'm talking about, who openly talks against their brothers in Islam and don't talk against the disbelievers, okay? And he shows love towards the disbelievers, and he shows hatred, jealousy. He shows contempt for strong Muslims. Let's go to Surah 60. Let's go to Surah 60 for a minute. Let me show you what subhanahu wa ta'ala says about this kind of person like this. This is serious. What Subhanahu wa ta'ala says. This is one of my favorite verses that I like. I recite this a lot in prayer, especially the first verse. This is Surah 60, verse 1. This is the answer to the Muslim here who's apostated, okay, who's left out of the religion because he doesn't take the religion, and he talks against the religion, and he talks against the brothers in it, but he doesn't talk against the disbelievers. Now, here's the answer. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is directly talking to him. He says, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, in Surah 60, verse 1, here's what he says. O you who believe, take not my enemies and yours as friends and protectors, offering them your love. Interesting. Here you have people who fight Muslims, who don't want to deal with Muslims. He doesn't talk against them. He shows them love. What is Subhanahu wa ta'ala? He said, don't take my enemies as your friends and protectors, but he has, and he is, and he still do it. He doesn't care. I don't care if I talk to him. I've talked to him. There's others to talk to him. He don't care. He ignores us. And he takes these disbelievers as friends, and he continues to talk against the people of knowledge. Then his Subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though they have rejected the truth, these people that he hangs around, they've rejected Islam. They rejected it. That comes to you and kind of driven out the prophet. Now, this is about history, because why were we talking about this? Because these people drove out our prophet and the Muslims in the early stages of Islam, if you remember the history right. Then I'll skip that part here. If you have come out to strive in my way, jihad, in my way, and seek good pleasure, take them not as friends. Again, Subhanahu wa ta'ala tell you, don't take these enemies of Allah as your friends. But he does. And many like him, they do. We have them even in 57 Muslim countries. We have so-called Muslims today. They're after the Muslims. They hate the Muslims. They work against the Muslims. They even, some accept money from the disbelievers to fight Muslims. Subhanahu wa ta'ala here talks against them here. He says, take them not as my friends, holding secret converse of love and friendship with them. This is what many of them do. They have secret admiration and love for these kuffar who fight Muslims. For I know full all that you conceal. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling this apostate, is telling him that, and that all that you reveal, and any of you that does this have strayed from the straight path. This is what Subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing to this type of Muslim who calls himself Muslim. I brought this fact to you, my brothers and sisters, to show you how dangerous it is about the Nawaaqid al-Islam. When you don't follow and you fall into one of these, and remember what the scholars say, if you fall one, you cannot make the distinction and say, yeah, okay, yes, you know, okay, yeah, I receive money with the disbelievers. I'm in violation of Nawaaqid number 8, but I do not codify their religion, as though he's got consolation. He said he wants me to accept that he's working against the brothers of Islam and taking money from the Salibiyin, but yet and still he says that he doesn't believe in their Al-Qaeda, as though that's a consolation. It says if you're in one of them or all of them, it makes no difference. You're out. You've apostated from the religion. We have to make that clear to everybody. You've apostated from the religion. Now, learning the basics of the religion. We have people who are trying, and some have been 5-6 years, and they're still learning, and they're trying to learn, but because of they have children, they have family commitments, and the rat race of the United States, they're slow in adapting that. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to get after you for that. You do the best you can. Okay, you do what you can under your ability, especially our sisters. You having one baby after another, you got a young family at home, you got to balance children, husband, you know what I mean, and things, you know, and it's very difficult. And this is why the husband is important in issues like this, because he should be able to come in and talk to his wife when she says to me, look, you know, we just had our son here. What about this? I got these discharges coming out after you know our son was born. You should be able to help your wife. If she doesn't have those answers, you should be able to help and answer those questions for her, or look it up so that way she can begin to start praying, because she may not think that she can pray when in fact she could pray. If she make wudu, that's all she has to do, and then she can go ahead and make her prayer. You have to educate your wife in that regard. But some of us don't do that because we don't even look at the stuff too. So we have two blind people. We got two Muslims in the house, the Muslimah and the Muslim, the man and woman in the house, both misguided, both not seeking knowledge. I'm more or less go after the man because he's the man of the house. As I said before, I'm more harder on him because it's him who straightens the family out about Islam. It's him who makes sure that his sons and daughters pray. It's him that gets everybody up early in the morning. He should be the first one up in the morning to get everybody and making sure, especially in winter months, that the house is warm so his sons and daughters can get up and go, to the restroom, visit the restroom, and they can make their prayers, in a heated environment. Because when you're cold, you can't concentrate because you're shaking and everything. So I'm more or less harder on him because it's his responsibility to make sure that his wife is up to speed on Islam, because he's the disciplinarian inside the house as well. If something's not right inside the house, he should take issue with it. And if he sees his wife not doing something correctly, he goes with love, say, sweetheart, here, you got here. You can't pray now because you have this particular discharge. You got to wait until this clears up, until it dries out. And then you can start hitting the prayers again. This is how you do this, my dear brothers, because you learn your deen and you talk to your wife in such a way. Now, if she's doing open kufr and she refuses, then you put your foot down. That's a different situation. But most people don't openly do that. I mean, most people just don't openly do that unless, like in the United States, you marry a disbelieving woman and the woman comes only to Islam. This is because she wants to marry you and take your money. And then when you get her inside the house, then now she goes back to revert back to being a disbeliever and you can do nothing. We have those situations. Now, it's imperative, my brothers and sisters, the scholars tell you, learn your Aqidah correctly. Learn the right Aqidah. You have to, brothers. You teach this, and sisters too, who are in single households. Learn the Aqidah correctly. If you need assistance, you can get a hold of me and you want a book. I know there's one book in English that's pretty good if you can't read Arabic. There's one book in Arabic that I use. I love it. He breaks it down very well. Assalamu alaikum, my dear sister. Owiji, how you doing? So learning your religion correctly, the Aqidah, is very important for any Muslim and his family. He has to do that. And learn the meaning of the Quran and the Sunnah. I cannot stress that. Because when your son is 7 years old and he comes to you and he says, Dad, I don't understand about this in Surah Anfal. Can you tell me about it? And then you have no answer for him. You can't do that, my brothers and sisters. You cannot. If your son is 7 years old and he's picking up the Quran, he's interested, you may just cause him to put that book down. So you have to learn. He comes to you, your son comes to you, my dear brother. He comes to you and he says, Dad, I like this surah. Every time I read it, I want to know more about it. You don't even know anything. What Surah 8? You don't even know what Surah 8 is. That's not good. Okay, that's not good. So that's why we have to be prepared at all times. Try to learn as much as you can, my brothers and sisters. Learn as much as you can on your deen. Number 6 here. Learning the Sunnah of our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. How much, I don't know how I can stress this. The Sunnah is divided up into categories. We know, what is halal, what is haram, and what is makruh, meaning what is disliked, but it's not really, you can do it. There's some things in sexual matters that covers, especially in this area here and whatnot, learning that. But when you get into when you really want to know about our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, you have to go to the Sirah Nabawiyah. This is the story of our Prophet. In there, we have beautiful scholars who wrote about this. Now, I heard they have some in English, but most of what I have here inside the house is in Arabic. But if you want to learn really about the Sunnah of our Prophet, ﷺ, you've got to get the Sirah of the Nabawiyah. And I think there's some now written in English, but don't quote me on that. Arabic, they're all over the place. There's many, and you have many to pick from. And second, protect your deen, protect your religion, and protect your brothers and your sisters. This is important. You must protect them, okay? And when your brother is weak in an area, you strengthen him. I give you an example of that. I know, like, when you get into the inheritance, I'm very weak in that. I admit that, because there's a lot of mathematics. And, ever since I've been a child, I got blocks about mathematics. But I hear 2/3, 1/4 of this, 1/3 of that. I say, okay. And I walk away, because, I'm not a mathematician. Now, I could do the basic math. I want to know how much money my check and all that, and how much I pay at the grocery and the bills. That's fine. But when you start talking about 1/4 here, 1/3 of that, and you have to, I'm weak in inheritance. So I go to the brothers who are strong in that. You see what I mean? I do that. I don't have no quorums. I don't care who he is. If he's another African-American or African Arab or even white, I'll go to him. He's strong in the inheritance laws. I go to him, because I don't quite understand some of it, especially the mathematics to it. A lot of it I don't understand. You see? So you go to those persons and to learn it. And so protect what you get, and learn it and keep it and practice it, my brothers and sisters. Again, work for the ummah, okay? Work for the ummah, work for the Muslim community. Don't work against it. This is important, my brothers and sisters. This is very important. You work for the Muslim community, okay? It's important. You must do that. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother. How you doing? I can't stress that, because we have a lot who are working against that today. And I can't understand how the Tubab is running havoc, especially through Black people, wherein we have been staunch against working against any melanated people. Now we have our brothers running to the Tubab to work against their Black brothers. And I, for one, don't quite understand what has happened. Because I remember in my time, in my day, we still had a little bit of separation between Black and white. We didn't have as much mixing as it is today. I understand, because like my daughter, she talked to me about, she never faced any discrimination until she got to college. Whereas I faced discrimination when I was about 5 years old. So times has gotten in that regard. But, I like I said, I don't understand how our brothers are getting into that. I don't understand. And how can a Tubab walk up to an African American after 400 years, 500 years of them killing their fathers and their forefathers and their brothers, and then you go to work with this man? I don't understand that. Now, again, we're not talking about you working at a business, you work at McDonald's, Walmart, you working in the post office. We're not talking about that. We're talking about working in programs against African Americans, against the Muslims, against other melanated people. That's what I'm talking about. We have too many of us now doing that. And the Tubab has no regard for them, because they're the first ones they give up. They'll say, oh, he's a good old boy. He's been working with me for 5-6 years. They don't turn in their white informants, but the Black ones, they do. They'll go and say, they go run to the brothers and say, hey, man, this guy, man, Muhammad, Larry, guess what? Guess what he said about you? And they will do that to you. And we know cases like this. Then the brother has to leave the community after he's betrayed them. The last one here is continue to seek knowledge, and also the education, Islamic education. And again, learning the right Aqidah is important in this matter. You got to. My brother here says, Islam, okay, yeah, I'm trying to learn Arabic. Is it possible to learn Arabic from translated Quran, transliterated? Yes, to a point, my dear brother. You can. You can to a certain degree, but it'll get to the point. I was there where you are. Back in about 2005, I desperately, I wanted to learn Arabic in one day, and I had a Bible. Matter of fact, I had a Quran. Matter of fact, I have one. I got one. Yeah, I have it over here. I have one where I used to read the transliteration, and I felt good when I read it. But it's going to get a point where you're going to have to get the alphabet and learn how to pronounce, because if you don't, you're going to be That's what happened with me. I started reading this. But then when I began want to speak to people speak Arabic, I couldn't, because I did not have the alphabet and the grammar structure. This is, I would suggest, I'll put his book. Let me see. I'll put, you get this Bilal Phillips. I can't remember his books. Phillips. I'm trying to remember. I think it's the beginning of Arabic or something. This is how I started. I began to learn from our brother. He's African American. He's been Muslim 30, 40 years. And I learned his book. I can't think of it. It's beginning Arabic or something like that. But you pull up Bilal Phillips and you pull up his books, because I do have my library there. It's in there, but where it's at in there, I'm not sure. But that's what I would suggest to you. Now, there's also courses that I know we're getting away from the subject, but I want to help our brother here. There's also the Medina. I'll put this. Okay, this is Bilal Phillips. You can look him up. His books. I learned my Arabic, beginning Arabic, from him, because he has a book I learned, and then I got a tape and I began to learn, and it helped me. And then I moved to the next stage. And there's the Medina course, which is free on YouTube. The Al-Medina, it's the Al-Medina course, excuse me. And he's a Saudi American who taught the U.S. military Arabic. And his courses are free, and they're very good. I learned from that course also. It's called the Al-Medina course, and Al-Medina is Arabic. And he starts from the first lesson in pronunciation. How do you say alif, lam, mim, and so forth? And when you begin to pronounce the letters of Arabic, then you'll be able to do it. And it takes time and practice. And it's a learning, because it's a second language. You got to keep at it. But I wanted to help my brother give something. And I told some other brothers too about this particular course. The Medina course is one of the best courses you could take for Arabic, because he begins at the very beginning, and he's got advanced courses, and it's free. And you can do it at your leisure, because each course, if you got to go to work, you do one lesson a day or one lesson every couple of days. It's a beautiful course. Okay, I'm just about ready to close up here. I will continue the rest of this, because we have a lot we have to cover to talk about 10. And again, I want those to understand that the Nواقض Ashra 10 and the last one is a serious bab. And only thing I can say to you is, again, my brothers and sisters, be mindful of what you do. And if you don't know something, ask somebody, or go even on the net. Even if you go to Google and you ask a question, even our sisters, and I'll give you an example. This is why I'm on this, because we have a lot of sisters who are suffering, because the sisters have special needs after childbirth and after their monthly cycles. They have questions. Put those questions in Google. You may be able to find answers. I know that. Matter of fact, I put one the other day. I just out of curiosity, and it was a sister, Sheikha. She answered the question pretty good, and it was about something about discharges. And I don't want to get into that, but she answered it, and she wrote it out pretty good. But any sister who wants to find out, I can't think of her name. I've seen her on TV. She's black. I can't think of her name. Now. But anyway, she wrote this piece because she's a woman, and women have special needs, but she talked about the woman's needs and so forth. Go to Google and put your sentence in there, and you may come up with an answer. Now, the reprieve that we have as African Americans is starting to dwindle, because now we have the media, we can get answers. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to see that. It's going to come a time after 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, you're going to have to learn your religion. You got to. You can't keep comfortably and say, well, I'll just make my salat and I'll just do my psalm, and that's all it is to it. You're going to have to learn more than that. And you have to learn the 5 pillars of Islam, which are easy. If you don't know those and don't understand them, you're in trouble. You need to learn that as a Muslim. You must do that. As it says here, the 5 pillars of Islam, all Muslims should learn this in order for them to be grounded in their faith, because without that, you're in trouble. And abandoning things that would make you jump to kufr. Again, watch what you say. Even if you don't like something, and every person, we're human beings. There's things I don't like, but I don't utter them. I keep it in my heart. I may disagree with it, but I follow it. Don't do like some do. They get on YouTube and they express their hate for something in the Sunnah of Allah or something in the Sunnah of our Prophet. You can't do that. Stay away from that. That will bring you to one of the nullifiers of Islam. Don't do that. Keep that to you until you have understanding. You know you don't like it. Sometimes when you're tired, you say, you know what? I want to make Salat to Isha. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. And you ask the question to yourself, can I go to sleep first and get back up later? There's answers to that. The scholars have spoken about that. You're very tired. You can't see straight. You're going to have a lazy prayer. Should you sleep a little bit or should you go ahead and do the prayer? They answer these kind of questions like this. So this is the type of issues I'm talking about that are, real issues. But I won't go on YouTube and start denouncing Islam or saying, you know what? I don't understand this. Why do we pray when we're tired? Or why do we have to pray at nighttime? I get home at 8 o'clock. I just want to eat. I just want to, drink my drink and eat and go to sleep. Why should I have to pray? And we have Muslims doing that in the United States. They'll complain. You shouldn't do that. It's close to kufr when you do that. Okay. So my brothers and sisters, I'll start concluding here. And the 10th, I'm going to cover some more of this, inshallah ta'ala, in a couple of days, if subhanahu wa ta'ala grants me that. And anyone who wants I have this, I think if you look at one of my marquees in my videos, I have the marquee of the Nواقض of Al-Islam 10 in English, so you can follow it and you can do your study. But those who want to learn Arabic, I suggest that you get it in Arabic to force you, like it do me. When my wife, she wouldn't help me, and sometimes I used to get mad, but she wanted to force me to learn the language. You know what I mean? To force me to do it. When I fail, of course, there's some things I did wrong. She said, look, the grammar is this way. You can't do that. When I started learning how to write Arabic too, she said, no, you can't do that. And she'd give me corrections. And so I began to improve. But she didn't want to make it easy for me. She wanted to push me. So I began to learn. The Arabic is essential because subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us how many times in the Quran. Quran and Arabian, right? Quran and Arabian, you see this written there. And it's for what? So you can understand. Made easy. It's been made easy for you. And when you understand the Quran and Arabian, you can begin to understand what subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. In English, you don't have that understanding. But when it's in Quran and Arabian, when you start to get to understand it, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. The understanding of the same verse is deeper because there's many words in English that don't correspond, but they give the best translation they can of it. But the African languages, anyone heard me talk last week, as my sisters probably here to tell you, the African languages are melodic, okay? Bottom line. When you listen to German and some others, French and all this other stuff, you listen to them but when you hear African languages, I don't care if it's a Khan, Lingala, I don't care if it's Font or it's Fula or Swahili. It's all have this same type of, melodicness to it. And someone said, well, why you say that? Because the black man was the first man on this earth. So he gave us languages, right, that blossomed. And he gave us these first languages. And that's why they're so melodic. When you hear the brother speaking Swahili or the sister speaking Swahili, it's beautiful, isn't it? You think about it. You hear the brother speaking a Khan language, or you hear the brother speaking in Wolof, and it's melodic. They have this melodic tone to it. I know I'm getting off the subject, but I just want to talk about something about these languages. And I want to say that it is important that our brothers and sisters learn Arabic, because Arabic is an African dialect. Let nobody tell you differently. It is an African dialect, and we spoke it first. It's our language. That's right. It's our language, and it's very melodic. That's why there's languages in East Africa that are very close to it, because they're in that family, the Semitic language family. Ge'ez is one of them. Amharic is another one. Those are all included, and they're very close to Arabic. So that's what I'm proud of, to be honest with you, the African languages, because they're so melodic when you hear them. And when you start to learn and speak it, it's beautiful. Arabic is no different. When you begin to speak it, it's melodic. It has a good tone, and it's very pleasant to the ears. And I love it. And, especially when I give you example, I can't think that sister's name. I hear her speaking Swahili, and I smile when I listen to her. I can't think of her name. When I see her, and when I listen to her when she's speaking Swahili, it's beautiful. It's like ringing in the ears. You hear her, and I smile when I hear, because she speaks it so well, and she pronounces the words so well. Even though I don't understand Swahili, some words here and there, because it's close to Arabic, but I love it. You know what I mean? So I got off the subject, but my brothers and sisters, I'm happy that you showed up today. My brother, Kareba, Musa Sake, thank you, my brother, for showing up. My dear sister, Oshwini, thank you, my dear sister, for showing up. My sister, Amina, Moroccan sister, thank you for showing up. And my brothers and sisters that will be listening and those in the future, thank you for viewing in. And I'll cover more of this next week. I'll give you a suggestion too. I did something the other day. I talked about Frederick Douglass and about the 4th of July in America. You guys should review that, because why I say that, because I give some insights on why the African-American and the Africans that are living in America, you should not celebrate it. Yeah, you take it because you don't have to go to work. You look at it from that regard, say, hey, I like this day because I don't have to work. But don't take it as something that is meant for you. Frederick Douglass, if you read what he said, I went over that a couple of days ago in one of my videos, and he tore it up. He denounced 4th of July. I forgot about what he said. He denounced it. And you read his words, they are beautiful, and they are haunting. And when you read it, it makes sense what he says. So we should stop to celebrate 4th of July. We celebrate it only that we don't have to go to work, and we can have barbecues and stuff, but don't put it as something that is meant for you. This 4th of July was not meant for you. It was meant for the Tuba. So remember that, okay? Remember that. And if you want to review that tape, I was very harsh about that in the Tuba. And their special day, because it's not our special day. Okay, my brothers and sisters, thank you for showing up, and I'll leave you with all the beautiful words that Subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, these beautiful words of peace and greetings. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.